globalized and shit. It's one big fucking goddamn joke. But yeah, and you see a lot of that. It's like, oh, we're doing something like that to like punish them, and it's like you're literally hurting people who are already really fucking poor. There's so much better again, like that you can insert insurgencies and give like structures and supplies to the people who are the resistant forces, and then do that like low key and shit. And they just no, we'll just put a bunch of sanctions on your poor people. Okay, that's cool. Doesn't affect us. Um, and then yeah, and then there was a song by Christ, I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, the artist behind it, but you guys might recognize it. I ain't no senator's son.
Oh yeah, that's isn't that
Neil Young. Is it Neil Diamond?
is probably Neil Diamond? Yeah.
One of the
Is
Neils.
is that Freebird? Mm, yeah, I think that's Freebird, right? No, it's because that's by Skinner. Um,
I don't know, but you know what I'm talking about.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it was about
I'm also
Vietnam.
thinking of Born in the USA is about Vietnam.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's that. What's that song? Just Google it after shit.
Okay. But yeah, and so this I guess connects to like a really important point, at least to like consider and be aware of. Like there's a really like significant sort of like
Oh yeah, it's Fortunate Son by Creed
yes.
Bridgewater.
Wait, by who?
I don't know, but
Okay. Yeah, Fortunate Son, Anna Sanderson. Um, yeah, but there's a really like common sort of trope in America where when you have like these like conservative like middle-aged persons who are like baby boomers or Gen X or something like that, they're very incentivized, sort of like as like a phrase from a sentiment from like millennials, that there's like this pathological hatred of like the middle and lower classes in America, from the middle and lower classes, and that comes from like a lot of delusion and like indoctrination from like media companies and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, we shouldn't be like supporting these people, just pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And it's like things are so bad for so many people, and like you're in this like isolated little bubble, and you're in this like conservative area, and there's a lot of like indoctrination and delusion that goes on. Those people are like being manipulated to believe that like, no, we actually like need to just be left alone to like suffer more. And at the same time we get like these massive tax breaks to these like billionaires, like who are like overwhelmingly like wealthy, and they just get even more money. And it's like, wait, why would you want them to get the benefits in the system, and then like not the people who are really needing it and struggling? And it's just like,
This quote,
they're lazy.
I don't remember what exactly it was, but like the like communism never took root in America because Americans, like poor Americans, see themselves as temporarily embarrassed millionaires.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um,
yeah, the American dream. That's the reason that communism is big, because the line is you have the option of being a millionaire, and
there's a really good line by Carl, oh shit, Carl something. He's a really famous comedian. You guys have any ideas? But anyways, he said this line though, that the thing about the American dream is that you have to be asleep to like believe
yeah,
it.
that oh yeah, what is his fucking name? Is it
Right? It's Carl. God damn it, that's killing me.
It's not Sagan. It can't be Sagan.
No, I know, really. That's exactly what came to mind too.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. That was just instrumental in like the modern comedy movement. People usually refer to him.
George Carlin.
Carlin.
Right, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
why I was like Carl. Like that felt like his.
Yeah, I know.
Carlin. I was thinking interesting talking about intentional forced proletariat class conflict between interclass conflict, or would that be intra-class conflict, in following and kind of like colonization of Africa. When Africa was colonized and divided up, there was actually a meeting where they divided up, all the countries divided up, how Africa was going to be colonized. They did that with no respect, respect in the way of acknowledgement of tribal boundaries and like African national boundaries.
I mean, it's not,
And-
let alone that, like, they just didn't even ask. They just
Well,
didn't even like. confirm
exactly,
because of this.
exactly.
alone
But
the
it
boundaries and
was,
stuff.
but to do it that way was helpful for the colonizers because that created, if you have two tribes that maybe were enemies and had a tenuous relationship, you cut both of them in half and put them together, that's going to create a lot of conflict
Mhm.
in the place.
Mhm.
And it's not going to allow them to band together and say,
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
this fucking blows, we should get these white people out of here.
Yeah, divide and
um,
conquer.
yeah.
Exactly. Not
Well,
classic.
Yeah, conquer and divide, because then they can't unconquer.
Yeah, sure. They did the conquering first. So what sort of things do we realize contribute to fights in our lives? In a general sense, like you guys can think back to like a conflict that you've had in the past. Like what was something that was like sort of like almost sort of a theme in your experience that contributed to those sorts of things? And then maybe we can try to like come together and like match and map onto one another in those sort of like conflicts and those themes, and then try to think of like how can we can approach those things in the future to make sure that we don't have those sort of fights again.
In some idea of a an attack or destruction of my identity, experience, firmly set beliefs. And that's a very common and it feels very serious, but like if you get in an argument with someone about something you think is true, that's a firmly set belief. And that causes a conflict when someone says, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
And you get defensive about that.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of it.
So fair enough. Any other sort of like contributions we want to think of, or like sort of like theme? Like
Misunderstanding.
misunderstandings, miscommunication, yeah, and that's a really that is definitely like classic, and hence why like when we're talking about addressing like logical fallacies, where it's a like in the very least there's a disregard for one's own like humanity and like genuine self and stuff, in logical fallacies and just general conflicts of all sorts. To clarify the position is really important to make sure that like you're understanding them and then they're also understanding you. Just to have like just like a focus of mind, that sort of thing. So it contributes like a lot to that. Like so another sort of like example like in general terms that can really cause a lot of fights is when your emotions are sort of like at the helm of the sort of situation, and you presume like the worst, like there's like it's the inverse of like the benefit of the
principle
doubt.
charity, yeah.
Huh?
I'm taking a intro to critical thinking class this semester, and they call it the principle of charity.
Yeah, sure.
In the context of an argument, don't assume someone's making a bad argument when they could not be making an argument. Don't assume they're making a worse argument than they are.
Yeah, that they're try to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're not this like monster who's just trying to be destructive and chaotic and shit.
For example, if someone were to say, some fish are poisonous, and you say, are you saying that all fish are poisonous? That's an example of assuming the worst. Or if you say like, or if they were even saying like, I saw a fish earlier that was poisonous, and you're like, so you're saying every fish that you see is poisonous?
Yeah, taking it to like an extreme saturation,
Yeah.
straw manning you. At least that's what it fronts as, to us. Like that's how we interpret it. But even then, it's kind of like a wild thing to like still take it back and say like I just like I heard like what you said, and I want to make sure that like I'm gonna say this like again honestly to make sure that like you understand and also like maybe confront that, but with as little of like an emotional like tension as possible and intensity on your own part, even though it is definitely like infuriating when that can happen. But what that happens though is that you get into this sort of like mindset where they are this person who is just trying to be destructive and hurt you, and then all of a sudden then people like really didn't actually connect on that point of wait a second, it actually was miscommunication. Like someone could have easily heard like I saw this fish earlier today that was poisonous, and someone could have just easily misheard you as saying like I saw this fish earlier today and it reminded me of all other fish that are poisonous or something like that. You know what I mean? The point is that language is ambiguous anyways. so people can take things the wrong way, and maybe they have like, I don't know, maybe they got like some fish trauma or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like, no, don't
Yeah.
don't call my goldfish poisonous. God damn it, Goldie. Goldie was a good fish.
Pescophobia.
Pescophobia.
Uh,
I know pescatarian, so pescato. Oh my god.
phobia is
Yes.
a fear of fish.
Uh-huh.
Carnophobia is fear of meat.
It's like here's a slab of like ribeye, and you're
Carnophobia is fear of clowns.
What?
Carniphobia is fear of clowns.
Yeah, but carnophobia is fear of meat.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so Casey, you did bring up like a pretty significant point there. When someone is just straight up like disavowing and condemning like your like seriously held beliefs and stuff like that.
Feels like shit.
Yeah, right. And it's sort of like just to give like a moment because like this happens for everyone. Like you're always going to come across some situation and multiple times indeed like in a lifetime where like someone is just saying like about like there's like so for example if this happens like so much in this conversation like pro life versus pro like women's rights and they strawman each other too like you're anti women's rights and like you're anti life and it's like you dumb fucks. Like you're on the same side. You want the best for everyone. Try to stay in connection with that one and that sort of value, and trying to make a connection on something. And maybe very well at the end, you just sort of have to like walk away. But the thing is, though, is you walk away with decency and a respect for one another's humanity and values and perspectives. And that's really important. And that would like so massively diffuse like the situation. Like, could you imagine if like all the pro-lifers and all the like pro-women's rights were like, I disagree with them, but I understand that like their values, like I understand their perspectives, and I respect them for standing up oh my god, that's so funny, I was stuttering. Standing up for their fucking shit values, anyways. Standing up for what they believe in. Anyways. But yeah, it changes so much of the dynamic, so you can't like hit a wall. You're not hitting a wall so often. I mean, and it's hard sometimes, right? Because like, what can there really be done if someone's just like, murder is wrong? It's like, no, it's not. Murder is totally fine. You can go out and murder people, or something maybe a little less ridiculous. Like, I think it's wrong to like manipulate people, and they're just sort of like,
or
no, I mean, like I manipulate people all the time, and I get what I want. Like, what are you gonna do about it? And like,
or even like saying you were to say murder is wrong, and someone says you're stupid for thinking that.
Yeah, ad hominem, right?
Yeah. And on the other side of that, often it's helpful to take a step back and think, is this person actually attacking my fundamental beliefs, or am I just getting defensive? Is something that I've been working on.
Yeah.
But it's helpful for in a room.
Trying to figure out like what exactly is going on here, and is it also like, are they just like hurt? Are they having like a shitty day? Like, it happens like so often. Like, I come across like just in retrospect like this just so often that people just like have a bad day or they're a bad situation. You have no idea. We all want to presume that like, well, I'm having a good day. Obviously, everyone else is having a good day. And while we may not like say that so blatantly, to ourselves, it's implicit in our psychology. Like, we're fine, and then someone's just like coming in like being disruptive and chaotic. It's like, what the fuck is this for? And it's like, there you have a whole other life going on. So to try to like remember those things, to bring those realities back into your own mind, because it is a reality that they have another life. Bring them back up into your mind. Connecting with that on like an emotional level will help you so much, because when you're getting angry and you're getting upset because someone like is doing some chaotic shit, right? You're in pain. Anger is uncomfortable. We don't like anger, but we sort of give into it. We sort of like capitulate to it, and it's very needless and it's very unnecessary. So being in connection with like, there's a context here. There's a reason why it's like happening. This is also like something that's like kind of crazy and it's weird. It's kind of like it's unusual and strange to think about, but it's also very, very captivating, I think, is that when you understand that like someone who's like very hurtful, like I know so many people who are just like hurtful people. I think of definitely a few examples. Who are just like really like just bad, like just bad people, like in just almost general senses. And you think about like the harm that they do, the harm that they've done to you and other people that you loved and stuff, and you want to like condemn them, you want to hate them, and you want to like just be infuriated over them. But there's a part of that, and it's like it's your feelings are valid, and you can certainly feel like morally outraged about like the wrongs that have happened. But when you think about like their character, you think of someone who's like, and this is happening like right now. I know someone like this, what their life being like this destructive person who is like manipulative and gaslighting and shit like that, they're not doing well. Their existence sucks. Could you imagine your life just being like, just in all your relationships, just like, I'm just gonna gaslight people, I'm just gonna manipulate them, stuff like that. That's a shitty existence, right? Not only are you doing shitty things, your existence is shitty, right? We are what we repeatedly do, sort of thing. I think it was like from an ancient Greek philosopher. Anyways, though, but it's sort of like, it's almost sort of like taking a step aside and realizing that, first of all, again, like free will is an illusion. It's not so much of a free and absolute choice. There's always a cause, an inclination, a liking, right, for like why we do stuff that we didn't choose. We don't choose those inclinations to be there. And so it's a reality that's happening, and it's just there it is. It's shitty, and then you know who's always in that shit? The person who's doing the shit. They're always there. The other people who are involved in stuff like that, those things can vary and stuff like that. But the person who will always be there, and so in that sense, the most like commonly entrenched in shit and in a shitty existence that's sad, is that person who's committing that. And that is just it can be very heart-wrenching, because you know that these people are so deserving, so in terms of their humanity is deserving of non-shitty existences by virtue of being human in the first place. Like, we may not like them as an individual, but their humanity is something that transcends that. And that inherently deserves respect. Humanity deserves respect. And if only that their existence was not so consistently entrenched in shit, and then that they were not hurting people around them and destroying their relationships. So it's just sort of like a really, I think, captivating and inspiring sort of perspective to keep in mind for when we consider about like, this person is like harming me and like they're like a bad person. It's, they actually are living through consistently a bunch of shit, and that's sad, and they don't deserve that. And it puts you in connection with this other emotion about this focus of mind on, I don't want shit to be there, and my focus of mind now is on like humanity and where we can be collectively and individually as well. Anyway, so I just want to say that. That's Rachel, thanks. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Something that I saw recently that's really connected to this that I think everyone should see is, it's a YouTube video. It's like an hour long. It's called something like the horrifying modern reality of West Elm Caleb. It's about this thing that happened on, it's ostensibly about this thing that happened on TikTok, where this guy in like New York or something would go on a few dates with someone and then ghost them, and a bunch of people saw that this was happening and that it happened to them, and that it was the same person, and it blew up, and he got super doxxed, and corporations were piling in on it. And it just kind of didn't stop. And like, there's different stories about what this guy did, how bad it was, and a lot of the people that were doing the really shitty things to him weren't people that were directly affected by it. But there's a lot of, I'm not going to explain it because it's an hour long, and it goes into a much wider scale of how people have been using the internet, especially in the past few years, to find people and harm them because of some perceived thing. For example, something that happened, another example that they use is, it was Couch Guy, which was this girl who goes to university and is in a long distance relationship with her boyfriend who goes to a different university. She went to surprise him, took a video of it, and posted it, and he was sitting on a couch with some friends that were girls, and somehow people decided that his body language was stiff, and therefore that meant he's cheating on her.
Was stiff.
Like he was stiff,
Yeah,
like he was surprised, or maybe neurodivergent, like that you're just like stiff and appeared maybe uncomfortable, but in an 18-second video, and you can't decide that. One more example that is touched on in the video, and he and his girlfriend got so much shit from him. People on literally in real life would find him and ask him about it and berate him for it. And there's this video of a girl that said she lived on the same floor of a dorm that he lived in, and slid a note under his door. It's like, why are you cheating on your girlfriend? Something like that. And he wrote a really good piece about what it felt like to be a person, a private citizen, and suddenly become a celebrity.
And not even like in a good way, right?
A celebrity in the way that celebrities have their body language analyzed a lot, like all the time. Like, you've seen the pictures of people with lines drawn from their head down to their crotch or something, and they're like leaning. That tells you that they're into women or better at, all that.
I have a friend who analyzes my body language a lot. She doesn't go to HSU. I've known her forever. But she's a lesbian and she genuinely believes that I am a lesbian because of my body language. It's like, no, I am not a lesbian. I am not a lesbian just because of my body language.
Your forearm is saying something
was-
different, Alex.
especially.
I am just pointing for emphasis here. It is very annoying.
No, no, it's emphatic or something else. I was up.
The one more example came up in this video. I really think you guys should watch it. It's really well done, well written. And one more example is it happened fairly recently. It was a trans lady that wasn't out yet. It hadn't transitioned kind of in the way that they appeared, and took some innocent videos of herself dressing in some very feminine clothes
Sure.
and dancing, like like a normal TikTok thing. And because she still looked very masculine in her face and body structure, and because her like the house she lived in was messy,
Yeah.
people decided she was a serial killer.
Oh wait, oh shit, I do know what you're talking about. Okay,
Yeah.
the whole way that I was thinking about. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
There's a reason why that actually happened. There was a desktop in the video where there were like these video cameras and people were seeing like bodies.
They were security cameras and they weren't seeing bodies, they were seeing pixels. They were seeing a messy house that had maybe bags of stuff in places.
It was just kind of creepy too. It was like really dark.
I mean,
I
yeah,
don't
no,
know. Like,
yeah,
no, I
it
swear to
was
God,
a-
like I actually saw it though. It kind of like it was definitely vague, but people were like kind of speculating though, like there's like that's kind of like random though. It looks like there's people like locked up something like. I remember seeing it too, and I was like, that's actually not that far fetched. It kind of does like it's
Yeah.
definitely like vague and like dark and blurry, but it kind of looked a little bit like that though. So it's not like the farthest stretch, but listen, like let me put it like this though. If there was any sort of like was there any sort of like touching on like transphobia or anything like that? Like I could totally see that like easily, fucking easily.
Here's
But
the
it wasn't
thing.
like the like just random as fucking
Yeah,
thing. It was
yeah.
actually kind of like a little weird.
Yeah.
It was like you got the
Yeah,
concept
yeah.
was random.
Here's the thing. How did you decide? How did you find that was weird? Did you watch TikTok where someone was pointing out that it was weird?
I can't remember. I think I came across both to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
But I saw like the video. I mean, like psychology is a thing, like so granted. But I did see the video though, and it was just like it was messy, like you were saying. It was also like a dark room with like this like really dim light,
Mhm.
and then there was like just the desktop. And there was like a few different videos too where this was like kind of shown. But there was this desktop though where there's these like cameras on people, and you can kind of make them out. Like I can't like it's hard to like recall so like from memory like how clear was it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I'm
also
not-
like
yeah.
using words here,
Of
not
course, I'm not
pictures.
asking you to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No. But I remember thinking about it though, and I'm like, yeah, I think people like being like, I think there might be people on those cameras. You know what I mean? And sort of, people like to like
Yeah.
sensationalize shit too. It's not like they're being so serious about it. Like
Yeah.
some people are, but some people are just sort of like being funny and sensationalized. Sensationally. Oh my god, sensational.
Yeah.
Just for its own sake, sort of thing. Just have something interesting to say. So that, multiple factors there, so to speak. But transphobia, I can totally see
Yeah.
that though. At the same time.
And I think the transphobia is big in the context of if you see somebody and you have some level of internalized transphobia and you see somebody who looks very masculine dressing in women's clothes, we have been conditioned by culture to take note of that and see that
Sure.
and
Stands out.
and have some kind of
Like stigma.
what is that? What's going on? This isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't
Yeah.
right. So you pay more attention to it. You then find something else that isn't right, which is there are security cameras where maybe it looks like there's people, maybe.
Well, and trans women serial killers specifically.
It especially is a
yeah.
big like trope that's been
Really?
yes. Trope as in
American Psycho.
yeah.
Dennis
Oh,
Rader.
sure, okay. American
Well,
Psycho.
American Psycho, yeah, but also like
Dennis Rader.
Yes.
BTK.
yeah. There's a whole bunch of examples.
Wait, I'm sorry. The movie American Psycho with that I can't remember the.
No, I don't think it's American Psycho because that's
Psycho.
Yeah.
Psycho, yes. American Psycho's with
That's
Christian
the-
Bale.
Yeah, Christian Bale. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the same.
Regular Psycho.
That's just
Yeah.
a dude. That's just the
That's
dude.
He was an American dude, though. That's the thing.
American
Really
American
important.
business dude,
Yeah, keep that in mind.
and the normal kind.
Yeah, effectively, right? It's funny. That was a really good movie, though. There's some really good like subtext or that sort of thing about like how people like class, right? Where it's like you can't be this like psycho, even though like he straight up admits to it. Like no, like no one believes him because it's like no, you're just this like normal business person, and it's like I literally I blood in my hands and shit like that. Like, you know, like those random
And
stuff.
what's cool about that is in that scene, it's someone that's superior that sees this happen, and they're like, it doesn't matter as long as it doesn't affect your work.
Right.
And that makes me think, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Because if you're unfazed by this,
Yeah, yeah, and it's horrific to the extent that we can imagine like how actually real shit like that is, where they have business ties with people who are doing some really disgusting like sweatshops and like abusive stuff just all over the place and rampant.
just American child trafficking
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
sex trafficking and
Yeah.
every wealthy person
Yeah.
having visited Jeffrey Epstein's private island where he had sex with minors that were slaves.
They're like coerced
And literally every prominent politician on both sides, Bill Gates, Elon Musk.
and then he killed himself with
Yes.
security cameras that were off when he was on suicide watch too, and the guards
So that
had
he
no
couldn't
idea what
testify.
happened.
So that and then therefore he didn't testify and expose everybody fucking else because it's okay, everything's okay as long as nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember there was a kind of really beautiful part about that though. I mean, like you know, I think it was meaningful at least. Like it means something. Was that there was these memes? It's funny they've now died out because like time happens and shit like that. People forget. But there was like memes going on for like a while that I saw in my like little bubble of the world. Where it's like it was like a SpongeBob meme with like Plankton saying like "Don't let the dream die out." You know, like remember that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. So that was going on for like a while, which is like good that people were aware of that.
now, if you talk to somebody who is around some similar cultures, if you think Epstein, you're gonna think either pedophile or didn't kill himself, and both of those things are good to remember.
Yeah, he was a powerful person, and then he you know implicated a lot of powerful people too. So what would we say should be done in the case of conflicts like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? You guys remember that one?
The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a really hard conflict.
Oh,
I
man,
actually
that's
have
so
some
hard.
experience with this one,
Okay.
so please let me take the floor.
Absolutely.
Here's the mic.
Thank you. I am on one side of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and for 2 years I was dating somebody who was very, very much on the other side.
What side are you on?
Not telling.
Oh, come on,
Okay.
really? You're around friends.
That's
Yeah,
true,
before.
but I'm still, I've learned to be discreet.
Okay, fine. So what side were they on?
Ardent Zionist.
Oh, okay.
Like
Cool.
ardent pro-Israel. And it's not
Right.
only pro-Israel, but so pro-Israel that you couldn't criticize Israel without that automatically being branded as anti-Semitic. Or so pro-Israel that Israel literally could do no wrong. Like literally could do no wrong.
Just can't.
And
Mother Teresa.
what I learned
Horrible person, by the way. Anyway,
from that was that it is possible to have a dialogue with such people, but it's not easy and it's really easy to mess it up.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
we had a couple of good dialogue on the conflict at some point, but I found that if I kind of used the wrong wording for things at times, or if I kind of flew off the handle, then it would affect him. And it wouldn't be good for the conversation. So I guess that's what I learned. I learned that you can have dialogue with these people,
You just have to be really.
but you
careful.
have to be calm. You have to be really, really, really calm, and you can't mess it up, and you can't get angry, and you just have.
Yeah.
You have to know them well. You have to have that bond of
Relationship.
trust. You have to have that bond of respect. Yeah.
And even know them well in the way that you can tell that a phrasing may upset them.
Yeah.
And to be able to walk that line. Oh man, the Israel-Palestine conflict is very complicated and weird and super American in the way that it said, we can solve 2 problems. We don't like you guys here, and you guys don't want to be here. So we're gonna let you have your place back, and you can go there. Oh boy. But of course, Zionism was a big thing everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, that's tough. But yeah, it's a good segue too into this just last part here. When we're talking about like conflicts and de-escalation techniques and such, like watching your tone and making sure that like a lot of self-restraint and self-control is really really important, and it's really good and important to practice those sorts of things, which is sort of the point that like what we try to do at least with like the logical fallacies and stuff like that to reflect on these things so that you can remember when it matters and then thereon actualize those sorts of things in your experiences.
Oh, and something I learned from the comic strip Pearls Before Swine. Everything sounds 10 times more rude via email.
Yes.
So if
Text,
you're
yeah.
communicating with somebody that you don't agree with
You've got to
via email or via any kind of social media,
Twitter.
you have to be triply careful to watch your
And you will
tone.
still
Yep.
fail.
And
you will
you'll
and you will still
fail.
fail
Yeah.
given enough time. It's like the opposite of monkeys on a typewriter, because you're a monkey on a typewriter who can only type 260 characters or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you cannot get your point across because of your body language and your tone.
Yeah.
And that is something that I'm not good at texting in a way that makes my tone clear.
Yeah, like anyone who ever sent that as a response, just a single K, right?
I mean,
pisses people
I'm
off.
very-
You get it too, and then
very-
you're pissed off.
I'm very good at being passive aggressive, but I'm not
Yeah.
good at being genuine or saying something in a way that isn't intended to offend. So I try not to do either of those things.
Yeah. No, but they're unavoidable too, so all the
Yes.
more to practice. So just a few things to run over. Don't rush the progress. This is part of
Yeah.
like active listening. Don't rush the progress. Like when you're engaging with a person, like don't try to force it. Don't like have a focus of mind to not do that sort of thing. Ease into it. Again, just easing into it. Like if it's worth if it's worth doing right, if it's worth doing, then it's worth doing right. That sort of thing.
And therefore, if it's worth doing right, it's worth doing slowly.
Yeah, and taking the time. Sorry, did you say it was worth doing badly?
If it's worth doing right, it's worth doing slowly.
Yeah, exactly. And then connected with that, give space. This is also part of like, one things, not just so much conflict, but de-escalation. Like if someone is coming to you and they're very troubled and they're hurt, maybe even traumatized, giving space and making sure that you're very careful. Like, hey, do you like need a hug right now? That sort of thing. If they need that sort of thing, but like also like how much do you want me to like be a few feet away from, like what do you need, sort of thing. Validate feelings and experiences, the same thing. Make sure you are validating of them, because that is first and foremost like what they're like coming to you with in that situation, and to not have a focus of mind on that, even though it's like maybe not so explicit sometimes. So you have to pick up on that and have a focus of mind to remember that they are coming to you with this reality of like emotions and experiences, and that's what you're dealing with. That needs to be validated, and then you can grow on from there, because if you don't do that, then you're just going off on a tangent in their eyes, and then it's very invalidating. Don't take it personally, same sort of thing. Remember the end goal again, and then utilize active listening throughout. So some things with that, using open-ended questions, provide encouragement, paraphrasing statements, reflection on expressed feelings, and then summarizing interactions. Really useful to when someone is like opening up to you like emotionally, to take what they say and then paraphrase it or like say it back to them. So like for hypothetical, you come to me and you say like, man, my friends just like dumped me. I feel like I'm abandoned. And then I would say in response to you like, so it sounds like you had this like serious amount of trust in your friends to like be there for you, and they're just not. It feels like that, huh? And then you say, yeah, I know, it's crazy. And then we like go on from there and be like, well, what was going on? Like, what was the context? If you want to tell me, I don't mean to pry, all this sort of stuff. I mean, just things to keep in mind. And okay, and then here it is. What last things would people like to talk about?
I thought of something about the moral war question from
Yeah,
earlier.
go for it.
One of my favorite books, To Like the Lightning by Ada Palmer, is like a big sci-fi book, and one of the themes is about war. Basically, like there's like this family who are like war historians. Is this like utopia, pseudo utopia, where there hasn't been war for like 300 years? So there's this family of war historians that are saying like war is inevitable, like human beings are always going to have war, so we
Yeah.
should have another war, like now, we should try to like trigger a war so that
Right.
technology doesn't keep advancing and it like wipes all of humanity out.
Oh, sure, like
Control.
antinatalism, but it's like we're walking hand in hand into death and into extinction together. That's
Yeah,
that's
well,
like a
they were
pessimist
trying-
sort of.
Well, the opposite, they were trying to have a war then that would be less bad than a war in 100 years from then.
No, sure. I mean, like, I see what you're saying. Like you want to prevent like the future
Yeah.
harm, and so in order to be able to do that, you have to make humanity go extinct.
No.
That was no, that
For
wasn't what you were
example,
saying.
in forestry, there's a concept called a controlled burn, where
Yeah.
to avoid a
No, I know what a forest
dramatic,
burn is,
and
yeah.
that's what they're talking about.
Right. So wait,
A small war that's not going to kill everybody before
just
a
sort of
big
like,
war happens.
so you just like
100 years
most
later.
people.
Yeah, or like any amount, because they were like studying war, so they were trying to like, they were saying, like, if we have a war now, like we'll be able to mitigate the effects more, and we'll be able to like kind of parlay with the other government leaders and stuff, and like make it, yeah, like as
Before things break down
controlled as
so
possible.
much that it becomes a war of annihilation.
Yeah.
The Great War, the war to end all wars, caused a lot of people to stop and think and talk about what's going on, and it wasn't really successful. But World War II, especially with the nuclear bomb, was a war that was able to do that.
Well.
On a very global, large power kind of setting, in with limited success. Success meaning that we are not all dead, and that so far we have avoided a war where everybody on the planet dies.
Yeah. Hopefully it never comes to that sort of thing, or the
We're-
prospect of that.
Our brains are always going to be conscious in the world where it doesn't,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's just a theory of consciousness where there's every universe, but you only experience consciousness in the ones where you haven't died yet.
Sure.
So like, let's say you choose a blue shirt or a yellow shirt in the morning, and if you choose a blue shirt, you get hit by a car. If you choose a yellow shirt, you don't get hit by a car. Therefore,
Why so much like death?
Because-
of everything that could possibly happen, all death except for this one.
because death stops your consciousness.
Sure.
So if you choose a yellow shirt, you have chosen a yellow shirt.